Hey guys, welcome back to Life Up Education TV. I'm your host Natsune. I'm also the author of the book called The Game of Self-Domination. And I must say, I'm a Japanese author of the book called The Game of Self-Domination. Why did I want to say I'm Japanese? Because in today's video, I wanted to talk about 5 famous Japanese expressions. I would say like old sayings and idioms that basically our mindset today kind of predicate on. And it's actually kind of interesting because a lot of people told me that I have this like a good mix of like American, like very entrepreneurial, American dream believer like kind of attitude, but mix that with like a Zen attitude like toward life. And I think it's very much appear here too, like the way I live, the way my mindset works. It's like two mixture of those like 2 different cultures. So it might be interesting for those of you who want to know like how Japanese culture, how Japanese mentality kind of works when it comes to success in life. Because without my intention, basically there's an implant of my Japanese upbringing in here in my book. So grab a copy if you haven't. Okay, that being said, the first one I wanted to talk about goes, a mouth causes trouble. A mouth causes trouble. And let me put out, okay, so the original saying goes, Kuchi wa wazawai no moto. Kuchi wa wazawai no moto. A mouth causes trouble. So basically it's saying that sometimes it's better to shut up. Sometimes it's better to not try to fight by raise your voice, raise your word, right? And I thought it was very interesting. This is completely like I must say it's very like Japanese thing to teach. I think a lot of people, rather than fight, we rather sit in a quiet. Like that's the mentality here. And when it comes to life, like you definitely have to use both. Like sometimes you do have to speak up. And in this culture, specifically in Japan, that is especially valued because a lot of people do the opposite, like this idiom suggests, right? In maybe American culture, the vice versa, like people often talk about listening, how important that is, right? So I think both has a space. You know, it's very highly contextual, what kind of situation you're in. But in general, I think it's a good approach that basically it teaches you that the world is never about you, right? Like the world is always about them. So whenever you have kind of argument over something, like just let it go, let them win, whatever, and it's just not worth your energy to like fight over something small. So this happens to me sometimes, like when I get in an argument with someone, like the other day actually we were speaking about concept of time and like how physics talk about time, and I read this article about that, and I basically presented this idea to this person, and he was like, nothing of physics say what you just said. And I could go on and to say, no, you're wrong. Like, this is what I read. And, you know, you're being so aggressive. Like, you know, I think I'm right, right? I could do that. But instead, my approach was, okay, maybe I misunderstood. And this physics, like the concept of time in perspective of physics is so irrelevant to my life. Like there's no point for me to prove this point. So I just let it go. I told him like, look, okay, that's fine. Right? So I think that's what it is too. In a daily life, in a conversation like that, like you don't have to fight over it. Like it's a waste of energy, I feel like. Okay, next one. A frog in a wall never knows the vast ocean. Motherfucker, just cause we're in love doesn't mean that we're right for each other. Can't get making a home out of you just cause you ask me to. Okay, I can't find the original one here, but basically this is to say that don't think you know everything. Like maybe you are living in a bubble, and then you think you know everything in this bubble, but once you get outside of the bubble, there's like whole another world out there that you don't even know of, right? So don't think that you're that smart. And I like this too. Like, I think it's completely true. Like, a lot of people, when you are stuck in like one village kind of mentality, a lot of people tend to be less open-minded, and they tend to assume that they're right. But once again, like, the thing is, everything in this life, everything in this earth is interconnected, and it's never about one individual person. And you need to kind of understand that everything is interconnected. The life is never about you. It's always about the balance of the world, the entire thing. And when you have that mentality, you just don't assume that what your truth always applies to everyone else, and then always applies to any situations out there. So you gotta be flexible up here. Okay, the next one. The skillful hawk hides its talons. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but basically this is to say that if you are actually capable, if you are actually skillful, you don't have to brag about it. Like, you don't have to advertise that you are like the number one person. And I agree. Like, I used to do this, but it was not because like I wanted to prove to someone. Maybe a little bit of it, but I genuinely, my biggest interest was always about like my ambition, right? Like, I always thought about like, how can I be successful? So whenever I have any like personal conversation with someone, I would always shift that conversation toward like success, like the topic of success. And so part of it was like because I was so obsessed with that idea, and then another part of it was, yeah, maybe a little bit because I wanted to like prove someone that I'm ambitious, or prove someone that I have a dream, because a lot of people don't. I don't know, but it's one of those things that you kind of realize as you grow up, and then you notice that like life is way more than just like being ambitious, way more than just like your work, way more than yeah, like a career ambition. Like, you can have more variety in life. And I think I only got it as I grew up a little bit older. So yeah, and you know, if you are really capable, like, show it not on your words, show it on action. And I think that's best way to describe it. Now I don't do it neither. Like, I mean, it's essential for me. Sometimes I do have to talk about what I do so that maybe I can network. But other than that purpose, like, I don't necessarily talk about that 24/7. Okay, next one. This is interesting. It says "Makeru ga kachi," so you win by losing. And this is another very Japanese concept, I feel like. And then it kind of loops back to what I just talked about a little bit earlier, is that like sometimes it's just like pointless. Like, you don't have to suffer, you don't have to create conflict, suffer for the sake of winning the conflict. Like, just let it go and spend the very same energy you are fighting to be happy. Find a common background, like find something that you can have empathy against that opponent person, and then you can become, instead of fighting over like small stupid thing, like you can actually find a way to be friends with them. or not, like, you don't have to be friends with them, but yeah, sometimes just arguments are just pointless. And there was a video, I had a guest, we talked about that, basically how to sell well. And you know, one of the key points that the guest mentioned was listening, and really understanding that argument never works. Like, you trying to convince others never works, because the other people, the other person also has to see your perspective on their own experience. So without them experiencing something, you telling them what to do would never work. And I think it's so true. Okay, the next one. Bad money won't stick with you. bad money won't stick with you. So basically this is to say that if you cheat, if you like do something out of the intention that you just want to make a quick money, it might happen, but it just doesn't stick with you for a long time. And like, it's so funny how literally like everything that we covered so far today align with what I usually say. Like, this shows me that I'm such a Japanese person. But anyway, I think this is so agree. Like, there's a quote that I like a lot where people say short success, or immediate success basically builds your ego, whereas like long-term, like patiently build success builds your character. And I think this is kind of similar to what this is saying. Quick money, it might happen, but it just like doesn't feel good maybe, or maybe it just doesn't last good because you're not capable of handling it. So instead of chasing for the short gain, chasing for the short money, like you need to have balance. You also should chase, I guess, like build your actual character, build your life. So that's what I would say. Okay, guys, this is it. Thank you very much for watching, and let me know what you thought, and I will see you guys in the next video.